We're born into our names, but we become family by heart. During my wife and my journey through infertility, foster care, and a recent adoption, we searched for and relied on a lot of help. If you're on a similar journey, then this podcast is for you. Or maybe you're curious about the process or looking to support someone on their journey. We got you covered. Each episode has a story to inspire and or resources to turn to. We're all family here. This is Family by Heart. What's up, family? Welcome to another episode of Family by Heart. I, of course, am your host, Dustin. I have a special guest with me on my lap, that being my youngest son, Draco, who is playing with the microphone, so sorry about the sound. But I'm also very excited. Remember, you're supposed to be quiet, buddy. Excited because I have my second returning guest ever, and that would be speaker, podcaster, foster youth advocate, and trainer for the wonderful people taking on the daunting task of becoming foster parents. And that would be Mr. Motivator himself, Jamole Callahan.
Hey,
Draco.
listen, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that, this is what we go through as parents. And, we're not ashamed. we're not ashamed at all. But Dustin,
this is actually Draco's second appearance on the podcast as well, because a while back I had one of the representatives with the Cleveland Angels here in the house doing an in-person interview with me, and he woke up from his nap and came right in the second half of the interview. So
awesome.
Hopefully he won't be touching too much of the stuff on my desk here.
I'm excited, though. I'm excited he's able to join us.
Absolutely. And he actually already told you some very sweet words when he walked back in the room for a second time, when he said, "I think I love him." So, and that's high praise from this little guy, because he's got a big heart. So,
oh man,
okay, buddy, you got to not be touched.
That's beautiful.
So
that's beautiful.
Again, so Jamole, you and I go way back to when my wife and I first got into the foster gig, as we all know, and you were one of the trainers for one of the continuing education classes I went. What kind of stuff are you getting into these days right now?
Oh my God. Listen, the work still continues. The revolution will not be televised, but the work still continues. I'm actually now, aside from still, speaking and advocating, working on a newer project and it's a large project. We're talking about coaching in the child welfare space. We're talking about how do we shift how we show up as a system. So that's a federal project that I'm working on now. It's called the Quality Improvement Center for Engaging Youth. And it's a pilot project right now. And we just finished the writing of the curriculum, and we are actually in the mode of training all of our pilot sites. And the work is just it's phenomenal, because we're trying to shift we're shifting how supervisors and workers truly engage their young people and their families in their cases. So, engagement is one of the biggest things that we try to pride ourselves on, because if we're not engaging with the families, if we're not engaging with the young people, then they're never going to buy into a plan that we have. So, as we look at how this project should affect our system and how we work, it's truly looking at and diving into how do we coach versus supervise, right? How do we make sure that we're building strong connections within our workforce that then turns into strong connections with our families and our youth by trying to engage them intentionally and differently. So that's kind of what we're doing, what I'm doing now. That has literally most of my attention. Again, on top of the typical, give some speeches here and meet with people there and all the things I still love to do. But this is purposeful work, and I'm excited. I continue to be excited about it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's some big steps that you guys are taking, because I remember early on in a past podcast, as well as your first appearance on this podcast, we talked about the housing bill for the youth that foster out
Mhm.
and how that's rolled out. And now you have
Which is
this
law.
awesome program that's yeah, that's incredible. And now you got this awesome plan going on with coaching. So two parts I want to piggyback off there. One, uh, there's a lot of amazing coaches out there that are career coaches and life coaches and all sorts of different coaches. And
Mhm.
if they're looking to do more meaningful work, such as what this program is rolling out. What are some ways that they can look into getting involved with the rollout of this plan? Is it something that people can apply for to get involved, or is it something where they're already working within the foster system?
Well, we're already working within our system. Like we're actually training our supervisors to be coaches. So there are some
Okay.
systems, excuse me, and as we, because this is still, and it's going to be piloted for another 3 years. So because we are attempting, or because we are teaching supervisors how to be coaches and giving them the tools that they need to engage not only their staff but their families, this is what we're trying to do now. As far as outside coaches and things like that, I fully encourage those that have that skill set,
Mm-hmm.
look into how you can help our system be better coaches, right? But as far as this particular project, and after the 5 years and we do all of our assessments and our research, then the program will be fully opened up to the nation. Um, that's how the project works.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that, we feel is going to shift what we do, and truly, like I said, how we show up, not only in the workplace, but also to our families. I mean, we're at such a deficit, and COVID didn't make it any better, right? You have systems in our country that are down 50 to 60% in their workforce. So we have workers that are being overloaded with cases, and the supports aren't fully there, and supervisors are overwhelmed. I mean, we're just in a state of burnout completely. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at a project like this and looking at some ways we can help alleviate and look at employee retention and look at how we serve our families, and do it authentically and do it intentionally. I think that's where we have to look now, because again, when you are burnt out, when you have multiple cases, more than what the state or federal guidelines allow, then that means that you can't do your job effectively. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've read articles. There was one article I read. It was a newer worker out of Tennessee, only had been a worker for about a year. But when she quit, she had 120 cases on her caseload. Um, so our
And that's
system,
cases where some of those cases might have like one or two to three, however many kids. So I mean,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
oof.
Exactly. So we're just in this state of peril right now. Um, and not to say that this project is going to completely fix everything, but we have to look, how are we retaining our good social workers, and how are
Mm-hmm.
we providing supervisors with the support and the knowledge to kind of shift how we show up. And I say how we show up is, you're gonna hear me say that a lot, because how we show up matters, right? How we
Yeah.
um, step to the plate, it matters, and it shouldn't always be about the negatives of being punitive if something's not done. it's about getting to the root cause of the issue and how we truly ask the right questions to get to the answers.
You mentioned obviously with this bill how we can show up and be there to support the the people working the system as well. What
Mhm.
are as you've worked on some of these pretty big bills, what are some other things coming down, perhaps from the government or within the foster system themselves, that might be some laws, bills, incentives that will help or hurt the foster care system? Obviously, there's kind of a big blowback going on right now with a lot of conservatives going against LGBTQIA individuals,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of youth that fit that description might have been kicked out of their homes because of their family not wanting to have someone under that identity and stuff. So, what are some things that you are coming down the pipes, perhaps to either help or hurt, and that we could perhaps call our local government representatives on, saying, "Hey, we need you to take action. This is what we want."
Well, there's so many things, and it's hard to always pinpoint every single thing that's happening because some of it truly doesn't even reach the light of day. Um,
All
I
right.
mean, you have
So
bills that
maybe top two, top three.
it's
Then that's
crazy.
that you think
Well,
are.
top two, I will tell you, looking at the so I know for the housing space, just making sure that things get reappropriated, right? So when you look at money that's being distributed for FYI or for faux show that are now law, we want to make sure that those things are still entered into the budget. I know right now there's a fight on Capitol Hill about the budget ceiling and all of that. But if we don't pay attention to things like this, little small programs or sectors like child welfare can be affected, right? And it's those things that we sometimes just don't pay attention to because, oh, it's the government and they're fighting over like spending and
Yeah,
all that. But we're in that, right? The
yeah,
things that how we're supported are in those big budgets, $1 trillion budgets that we try not to pay attention to. So I think as a system, we have to keep our ear to the ground and understand where this funding is going. Also, we're still trying to make sure that we get Chafee expanded. Um, Chafee's been flat funded at I can't remember the number, but it's the same few $1 million that has been funded with since its inception in 1999, and here we are in
if
2000.
you could if you could expand on what Chafee is for the
So
layman.
so Chafee is so it was a bill that was passed in '98. It came to fruition or became active in 1999, and what Chafee does is set aside money for child welfare systems to use for older youth. That's independent living classes. That's
Mm,
supporting youth that age out. That is some systems use it to pay for workers just to work with those youth that are going to be aging out. So between 14 and now 21. So, and those funds have been the same since,
yeah.
since it started. So we're looking at, the increase in that. Also with Chafee, the, and it's hard to kind of explain, but systems are only allowed to be able to use like 30% of their Chafee allotment towards certain types of programming, which it should be a lot more flexible in being able to
Mm,
use that funding. So if a young person needs a car or down payment for a car, that those funds should be able to be used. Now we have systems that are being very creative in how they use those Chafee funds, but then
mm,
there's some that don't even get it at all, right?
mm,
Uh, but looking to still continue to push, asking for an increase in those funds. I think upwards to $150 million is what we're asking.
mm.
Um, but at the same time, we're we just have to continue to push. There's a bill locally, and I say locally in the state of Ohio, where we are looking at, you know, we there's an issue that our system punishes runaways. And whether it's a young person that goes AWOL from our system or they just run away from home. And historically, what's happened is these kids are punished, whether whether they're punished with juvenile justice, whether they're punished with um, a crime for just trying to survive. One of the bills that we are helping to push is the homeless runaway. I believe it's the Homeless Runaway Act, and don't get me if I'm wrong. I'm wrong, but that's kind of what it encompasses. Where we are trying to make sure that we decriminalize young people who happen to run away.
Hmm. Okay.
And as a system, we can't keep doing that, because think about you when you look at why youth run away from these situations, it's because they're in danger,
Yeah.
right? They're in danger. The safety is not there. They don't feel safe. So there's reasons why our young people do these things,
Yeah.
and because they're running to find a safer place, they shouldn't be criminalized for it, or
Yeah.
shouldn't be treated as a criminal for doing it. But it happens. So
Yeah.
locally, as a state, the state of Ohio, that's something that definitely we would enjoy for you to get behind. There's a lot of partners on this, from the Children's Defense Fund of Ohio to the Junior League of Columbus, who are all helping. But also, another initiative that we are pushing in the state of Ohio is tuition waivers. So tuition waivers for young people who age out of foster care or experience foster care. That way they're able to go to school for free.
Mm.
Um, we want to give everyone the opportunity to experience higher education if that's for you. But
Yeah.
right now, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And
Yeah.
then our young people are left with debt out their wazoo, right? So,
Yeah.
how do we, so the question is, and with our partners as well, is how do we provide free education for those people? Um, so it's funny. I just got an email talking about the decriminalizing runaway. Um, so there are more sponsors
Nice.
that were added to this. So what I mean by sponsors, it's senators and state Congress people who are liking and showing their support for this bill. So
Nice.
it's a beautiful thing, right? But back to the tuition waivers, we want to make sure that education is not a barrier for our young people, and getting monies to support the 100 to possibly 1,000 young people a year for free education. It's a drop in the bucket for most systems, for most
Yeah.
states, right? Uh, so why not make it available and remove that barrier to creating a great life? Again, it doesn't mean you have to go to a 4-year college.
Hmm.
This money or these waivers will be available for associates. It's waivers for certificate programs. These waivers will be available for anything these young people want to do regarding higher education. It could be a 6-month program. It doesn't matter, but it will definitely make it available for them
Nice.
to solidify themselves as professionals in any field.
Mm. And that's absolutely important when you look at the statistics of kids that grow up through the foster system, and how the number, I forget the number off the top of my head, but a very large number that end up just still in poverty and stuff is, and that's part of the whole foster system pandemic, if you will, or that it's just secular. It's many people, how many kids who's are in the foster system, their parents were in the foster system, and their parents were in the foster system. It just keeps going around and
Yeah.
around and around. So programs like this are absolutely vital to get them that education. coming up. Um, we're halfway through Foster Care Awareness Month,
Hmm.
and so two things when it comes to that. What kind of are there any events, activities for people to take part in or watch to get more informed with Foster Care Awareness Month? And then two, any rising stars, speakers, authors, advocates to be aware of and be following on social media, seeing at book tours like I mentioned I had you're my second returning guest. My first returning guest was my last episode, Justin and Alexis Black, who they just
Yes,
released their
Lex.
first children's book, I Love You More Than Cereal, which is awesome. So, who should people be looking out for, and what can people be doing for Foster Care Awareness Month?
Well, definitely. And I've haven't met the Blacks personally, but I've been definitely watching their progression and the impact they're having. So they're definitely on my list of rising stars. Kim Rath, who's another one,
Mm-hmm.
she's out of Grand Junction, Colorado, who's an alum. And what's crazy is I'm actually going out there next week um, to do an event for them, and she's created Foster Alumni Mentors, which is an organization that serves those young people, I think between 18 to 21 or to 24, with post care supports, whether it's finding funds for them to go to school, helping set them up in their apartment. I mean, it's just hands on support. And I mean, they're just doing some amazing things out there. So I'll tell you that Kim was one you should interview and kind of get to get her on, because it's she's just a phenomenal individual. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just did a podcast yesterday for Michael Thomas, and who is an alum out of Michigan, and he's experienced homelessness and in his years, and he still continues to fight for all of those young people who are experiencing the same things that he has. So,
Mm-hmm.
and he is Michael D. Davis Thomas, and his podcast excuse me, his podcast is called The Resilient Voices and Beyond, and you're able to dive in, and he works with local government in Michigan to help steer them in the right direction when it comes to serving our
Mm-hmm.
population. So he's another phenomenal force, in our space. So that's just a few that I
One second
can.
to get brother, okay? All right, love you.
So that's just a few that I can mention, like
Okay.
literally right off the back. And as far as foster care awareness month, yeah, we're halfway through, and a lot of, if you are connected to an agency, if there's a way, just attend the events, right? So attend
Mm-hmm.
their foster care awareness banquets, attend their staff banquets, attend or support their foster parent um, banquets. You know, all of our
Mm-hmm.
all of our families, whether it be our bio primary families or our foster to adopt families, need love and support. So it's one of those things where, I mean, me personally, you don't have to do a lot, but if you know a family personally that is fostering or moving into adoption, just show them some love, right? Show them some love.
Mm-hmm.
Send them some flowers. Let them know that they're doing, God's work. That's what you can do for Foster Care Awareness Month. Because I think all of us know someone, right? All of us know someone in the space of parenting, in this realm. Show them how much you care and how much you appreciate the work that they're doing. You know, there's not always like huge, big events happening for Foster Care Awareness Month, but even if you go and you send flowers to an agency, you send something to an agency saying thank you for the work that you do on behalf of our children and families, they'll appreciate it. You know, it's just a small token. So that's just, I think that's one way we can be appreciative, outside of the events that might or might not happen, but supporting those families that are brave enough to do exactly what you and your wife did in adopting, um, and to say thank you to those families, because it's not easy.
It's not. It's very rewarding. It's not easy. It's rewarding. It's tough. It's difficult. It's so many things wrapped into one. And like I said, those agencies and people that are helping and step up, and again, I've mentioned them each time you and I've talked. And there's the National Angels program. There's a chapter here in Cleveland, the Cleveland Angels. They just did a bunch of benefits. Their spring benefits, and where the chapter here in Cleveland raised over, I know that night, I think over 80,000, but I think they hit six figures on money they raised in one night, which was,
Wow.
yeah, it was amazing. And again, they have programs to support the foster families as well as support individuals, young adults that are in the foster care system through mentorship programs. So, one last question before we wrap it up, as I have
Yeah.
my nice little one here that keeps coming
Your
in the room,
co-host.
but I have my other one to go pick up from preschool. Um, if you could make one change to the foster system immediately, what would that be?
One change.
Yeah,
Give the power. I think give power to the parents. You know, you see it in some jurisdictions, but there's others that that don't have it. I think we rush to judge, um, primary parents as well. So having a system that really and authentically works with both sides of the fence, the foster to adopt and the bio families, is
hmm
something that I wish, um, could be like a staple. I know we tried. I know this is, I mean, it's a loaded question when it comes to both, but
yeah,
if I could change one thing, it would be how we connect and work with those families as a whole.
yeah, no, absolutely. I know I sent you. I don't know if you ever got to listen to it. I know the audio wasn't the greatest, but when I got to speak at a local church last summer and talked about our experience, and how torn we were as foster parents, not originally looking to adopt, but as we fell in love with the kids, like, okay, well, who's it became this gray area. Like, we're not rooting against the parents because that was never what we wanted to do in the first place. But if the parents weren't able to hold up their end, then we wouldn't have our beautiful children. So it was
Yeah.
definitely a okay. I'll get it for you in a minute, buddy. So one last appearance from Draco there, and speaking of appearance, I also got to give a shout out where it's due. Thank you for repping the Family by Heart hoodie today. I love it,
Of
and I got
course. That
got
was
a little kind
intentional.
of. Oh yeah, well I appreciate it. So, and I always appreciate talking to you. I appreciate everything you are doing, for the families taking on the task of being foster families, as well as everything you're doing for the foster community. I will be sure to include all the contact notes and everything for you in the show notes, so people can check out Jamal. And the Daily Jam is one of the
Yes.
podcasts he's a co-host of, and his different podcast appearances. So we'll include all that. Jamal, great talking to you. Great catching up with you, and we definitely got to catch
Yes.
up again soon ourselves, buddy. Yep. For everyone else, it's families are made in many, many different ways: foster family, adoption, kinship care, uh, you know, godparents, whatever it might be, or just pseudo parents, like you just help mentor somebody. But it doesn't matter what background, how that family's formed. We're born into our names, but we become family by heart.